Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Smart Money. Now, the AI space has taken the world by storm in the last few months. In fact, the big headline this week was Accenture investing $3 billion in artificial intelligence over the next 3 years in both its data and AI practice, thereby adding 40,000 jobs. Now, in this week's edition of Smart Money, we do a deep dive into the generative AI megatrend. How could it transform industries, companies, and transform the way we live? My guest on the show today is Varun Maya. He's the founder and CEO of companies Avi and Scenes. Varun is also a self-proclaimed tech geek, has been writing code for 17 years and creates content about AI on social media. Varun, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I really appreciate it. First, tell me, it's a very scary and exciting time to be alive, perhaps, because of this whole AI mega trend. But for the uninformed, people who've perhaps not jumped onto the bandwagon just yet, tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So I think, look, AI has been a buzzword for a very long time, and people have been making many of these AI models for a very long time. But what broke it into, I would say, mainstreamness was this tool called ChatGPT that came out and allowed anybody, people like you and me, to be able to prompt it and then output very human-like readable text. I think that's what started the wave, and then a lot of other tools came out. So everything you see in content, right? Text, audio, video, we started being able to replicate the parts of humanity that we thought were special to us. So we thought our creativity was special, our artistic sense was special, our sense of the way we write poetry was special. And then one by one, we got knocked off our perch little by little by little. And I think that's why it's creating so much furor out there. Because I think the one part that made humans very special, or believe we are special for a very long time, has now been superseded, or rather has competition from something brand new.
But am I going to lose my job, Varun? I mean, are anchors going to be replaced with an AI-generated version? Because there's now text-to-speech as well, right? I mean, they don't need us anymore.
Yeah, two ways to look at it, right? The way to look at it is, let's say you were on YouTube and you had a very tiny channel, let's say 100 people, 200 people. Then you could use an AI to kind of, replace yourself. But at your scale, for the reputation you have, it would be very hard for an AI to capture all the nuance of what you do on a daily basis right now. 5 years later, nobody knows, right? And I'd be lying in public if I said, I know what's going to happen 5 years later. I have a general idea, but you know what? The last 1 year has proven me wrong. My timelines were much longer. I said, well, 2030, I'd written a book in, I think, 2017 called Pajama Profit, where the last chapter was one day AI is going to take your job. It was supposed to be clickbaity to a certain extent, but what ended up happening was my timeline there was 2030. And look at us now, we're in 2023. So I don't know, I think nobody can predict the future. We all know that it's going to happen at some point, like 100,000 years in the future, 1 million years in the future. At some point it's going to happen, but it's almost like those timelines have shrunk to the next 3-4 years. To answer your question of will you have your job, unlikely for you to lose your job. You're at scale, you're at a reputation that's hard to be, dethroned.
Okay. It makes me feel better about my job. But, I'm sure that's the question that millions of people who are watching have, right? What about economy in the age of AI? What's the impact that all of this would have on, say, the wealth gap, right? And how does this tie in with the universal basic income?
Yeah, so there's this saying in software, right, that the marginal cost of production is very low with software, right? So let's say I produce 1 unit of the software, it's going to cost me X. But the minute I want to make a copy of that, let's say I want to make 100,000 copies of that, I can do it at near zero. It's not actually zero, it's a little more than zero. That was the advantage of software. And we saw this advantage being played out in the last 30 years. Actually, a little lesser than that, but let's take 30 years, as a timeline. Before that, what did humans do? We had jobs, we had the concept of jobs, but all of them were offline. We had very little of this, we'll do this online, we'll send an email online. So I feel like the offline world is going nowhere. It's only going to be supplemented by the online world. In fact, even in India, right, if you zoom out and look at it, apart from like some clusters, like let's say EdTech, gaming, few others, it's actually very hard to make money online. And a lot of people have figured out that, the next door guy selling cakes or bed sheets is probably making more money than, most startup founders, right? So I think offline is here to stay. Online is a great advertising and distribution platform. You want to attract potential customers to come buy the sporting equipment that you're selling. Online is a great place to do that. I feel like there is where AI will sort of make the people with a good brand become even better, right? Someone famous once told me this, right? India is an underbranded nation. We don't have enough brands. And AI actually allows you to make like the whole hog, right? Because everything that AI is coming after right now can be described as content, except maybe code and a few other segments. You look at text, you look at video, you look at images, you look at audio, it's all content. And all of that content put together allows you to build a brand. A lot of people had to hire other people to make this happen for them. But today you have a bunch of tools that make your life easier.
And
so
we're going to talk a little more about those tools, right? Because I do want you to help us with, understand, with some live sort of examples as well. Everyone knows about ChatGPT, so I'm going to leave that aside. But there are several other generative AI tools which are sort of taking the world by storm. There's Midjourney, there's 11 Labs. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So, I actually tried Midjourney many years ago. Right, when it first launched, I think this was a couple of years ago. I think this was last year, if I'm not wrong, when I first tried it. And it wasn't that great. And I was like, I'll give this a pass for now. I'll come back when it's better. Today, it's like really good. Right. And I think a few weeks ago, we all got back on Midjourney subscription. It was like really, really, really good. So a lot of people, especially, and we see this on Twitter, right? Twitter is slightly ahead of the curve. So they're kind of used to what kind of outputs Midjourney puts out now. But if I go to the average person who hasn't used Midjourney, which by the way is most of India's population, and I show them a Midjourney output, their mind is blown for a second. They're like, how is this doing this?
Show us a demo. How does it look? What do you use it for? And I mean, just, one glimpse for our viewers.
Sure. So let's bring up Midjourney on screen, guys. Awesome. So that's Midjourney on screen. And we're just going to quickly prompt for a Disney Pixar-like image. A Disney Pixar-like image of a wrestler, of a sumo wrestler, let's say.
Okay.
That's it. It's just one line. Let's hit the enter button. So it'll take a few seconds. And you can see it sort of, the image being birthed in real time, right? It's magical to look at.
So basically, you can create any type of image in a really short period of time, and the person can be anywhere in any avatar, so to speak, right?
Yes. So you can imagine anything. In fact, the keyword to prompt Midjourney into action is imagine, right? You are now limited by what's going on in your head. In fact, my friend keeps saying this, right? He keeps saying that the last generation rewarded people's skills. Today, this generation rewards people's taste. So it's sort of like if you have great taste, using these tools allows you to, kind of put out exceptional sort of images, videos, text, all of that fun stuff.
Okay.
Let's bring up one of those images on screen, please.
That looks pretty cool, actually. You did this in less than, what, two seconds? I mean, you need to know what the right prompt is, right?
Yeah. So let's try another one. Let's try a Japanese woman in a kimono standing on top of a mountain.
So Midjourney is not used for face swapping. It is largely just a creative tool.
Image generation. Yes. I mean, there are interesting bots on Midjourney that allow you to do things like face swapping. There are also dedicated tools for that. Hopefully, we'll show you one right after this.
Oh, great. Okay. I'm looking forward to that, actually.
Yeah, this is the sumo wrestler, I think, from the last image, from the last generation.
So what is Midjourney, like from an economic sense, right? What all are the jobs that you can create for yourself? Or how can you upskill yourself using some of these AI tools?
Sure. So I think if you're an artist, Midjourney is great. Like, for example, illustration. Midjourney is great to do things like illustration, right? You want to do logos. It isn't the best logo maker, but there are some styles of logos it's good with. I'll tell you where Midjourney struggles with. I think a lot of artists have been worried about Midjourney, and we've been working so often with image generation tools in general that we've sort of figured out where the gap is. If you ask Midjourney to generate, let's say, an image of a coffee cup on a table, right, with some nice logo or branding on one side, it'll do a great job. Now, if you take that same image and you can do stuff in Midjourney where you feed in an image and get more results. If I feed in that image and I say, this is the style of the coffee cup, now make me a coffee book table, make me, a tote bag. If you ask for that, you'll immediately realize that Midjourney is now generating other really cool images, but there's no consistency between that image and this one, right? So for now, I think as a designer, if you're going and doing one-off things, right? If you're making one-off images for clients, you're in a little bit of trouble. But if you're responsible for making the entire branding, I got to do this and this and this and this and this, In fact, it makes the communication between you and the potential customer or client much easier. A, because the client can see immediately what he or she wants. You sort of can throw them the entire mood board and they can decide what they want. And then you build the entire brand assets around that.
Wow.
Right? So I feel like that's a very big opportunity for designers. It's making them faster. And it's possible now. In fact, people keep saying this on the internet. I think it's kind of true, right? A person with AI will beat a person without AI. So essentially what's happening is if you have the ability to use these tools, you are now able to take up more projects, right? Let's say if you were able to take up 2 projects a week, right?
In lesser time,
yeah,
right?
Much lesser time.
Much lesser time. And this is, by the way, this is beautiful. Look at what he's generated, right? In what, less than a minute. This is a stunning picture. I don't think even if you were trying to make this picture on your own using Photoshop or even using just, your creativity, it wouldn't come out like this. All right, on that note, let's take a very quick commercial break, but we will continue this extremely interesting discussion on all things AI on the other side. Stay with us.